Some people never say this out loud, but they think it every night. Maybe I was easy to leave. Not because you didn't care, not because you didn't try, but because they left without struggle, without explanation, without even slowing down. And in the silence that followed, your mind did what it always does when there's no answer. It went looking for one. You replayed conversations. You softened your memory of your own kindness. You wondered if being open made things worse. And then, quietly, the doubt settled in. If I mattered more, they would have stayed. If I was truly important, they wouldn't have walked away so easily. This thought doesn't shout. It waits until the room is quiet, until the day is over, until there's no one left to be strong for. If this thought has ever passed through you, this conversation is for you. Not to correct you, not to convince you, but to sit with you at the exact moment your worth began to feel uncertain. Stay with me. Because that thought, as convincing as it feels, is not telling you the truth. Before we talk about healing, there's something harder we need to say. The part that hurts the most is not that they left. It's that you still don't know if you ever crossed their mind the way they still cross yours. That unanswered question is what keeps the wound open. 1. Why this thought appears after they're gone. That thought, I was easy to leave, doesn't come from nowhere. It appears after something very specific happens. It appears when someone leaves without explanation, when there is no argument to point to, no clear ending, no moment where you can say, that's when it broke. Your mind is left holding silence, and the human mind does not rest well inside silence, so it looks for meaning. It rewinds moments that once felt safe. It examines your words, your tone, your openness, your kindness, and slowly, almost gently, it turns the question inward. Not because you are self-centered, but because you are self-aware. People who never cared do not ask these questions. This thought appears more often in people who were emotionally present, people who stayed, people who tried to understand rather than disappear, people who believed connection deserved effort. So when someone leaves quietly, your nervous system tries to protect you by finding a reason you can control. And the reason it finds is you. Because blaming yourself feels safer than accepting that someone chose distance for reasons you may never know. But here's the part we need to pause on. That thought is not proof of your value. It is proof of your capacity for depth. And depth, in a world that often avoids it, is not always met with courage. Sometimes it is met with leaving. Because blaming yourself feels safer than accepting silence. 2. Why people who stay open are often the ones left behind. There is something deeply unfair about this truth, but it needs to be said gently. The people who feel easy to leave are often the ones who stayed the longest. They listened. They noticed changes in tone. They asked how someone was really doing. They tried to understand instead of disappear. They brought presence into the room. And presence does something uncomfortable to people who are not ready to face themselves. When you are emotionally open, you don't demand anything out loud. But your openness quietly asks a question. Can you stay here with me? Honestly? For someone who avoids their own feelings, that question can feel overwhelming. Not because you are too intense, not because you asked too much, but because staying would require them to slow down, to feel, to take responsibility for their inner world. And some people have learned to survive by avoiding exactly that. So they don't argue, they don't explain, they don't confront, they withdraw. And from the outside, it looks like you were easy to leave. But from the inside, something else was happening. You weren't easy to leave. You were hard to stay with for someone who could not remain emotionally present. That distinction matters more than you know, because it means the pain you're carrying did not come from a lack of worth, but from a depth that met someone else's limit. Your openness quietly asked something they weren't ready to answer. 3. Why this hurts more. As you get older, when you're younger, being left feels painful, but it also feels temporary. You tell yourself there will be other chances, other people, other chapters. Time feels open, but later in life, the pain carries a different weight. Because by then, you already know something important. Not every connection gets replaced. Not every bond has a second version. Not every door opens again. So when someone leaves quietly now, it doesn't just feel like loss. It feels like erasure. Like a chapter of your life was closed without asking whether you were ready. And that's why the thought, "I was easy to leave," cuts deeper at this stage of life. It isn't about them alone. It's about all the goodbyes you've already survived. All the people time has already taken. All the moments you didn't know would be the last. At this age, connection is not casual. It carries history, it carries memory, it carries meaning. So when someone walks away without explanation, your heart isn't reacting from fragility. It's reacting from wisdom. You understand the cost of losing people now. And when something precious disappears quietly, it makes sense that you question its value. But the question your heart is asking is not, "Was I enough?" It's, "Did this matter as much as it felt?" And the fact that it did says more about your capacity to love than your capacity to be left. At this age, connection is not casual. It carries history. 4. The moment you started shrinking yourself. After someone leaves quietly, something subtle often happens inside you. You don't just grieve the loss, you begin to edit yourself. You replay your openness and wonder if it was a mistake. You think about the times you reached out and tell yourself you should have waited longer, spoken less, needed less. Without realizing it, you begin to make yourself smaller. Not because anyone asked you to, but because you're trying to prevent the pain from happening again. This is one of the most hidden consequences of being left without explanation. You don't lose confidence all at once. You lose permission. Permission to be warm. Permission to be expressive. Permission to care out loud. And the tragedy is this: the parts of you that you begin to hide are often the same parts that once made the connection meaningful. Your attentiveness, your emotional honesty, your willingness to stay present. You didn't become too much overnight. You simply encountered someone who could not stay in the space you naturally occupy. So when you feel yourself pulling back now, hesitating to reach, measuring your words, pause. Ask yourself gently, am I protecting my heart, or am I abandoning myself? Because healing doesn't begin when you learn to be less. It begins when you stop asking yourself to disappear for someone else's comfort. You don't lose confidence, you lose permission. 5. Why being easy to leave is not the same as being unworthy. There is an important distinction that often gets lost in the pain. Being easy to leave is not the same as being unworthy of staying for. Someone can walk away quietly, not because you are replaceable, but because staying would have required more presence than they were capable of giving. For people who avoid emotional depth, leaving is not an evaluation of your value. It is a regulation strategy. It is how they protect themselves from discomfort, responsibility, or feelings they don't know how to hold. And when someone leaves this way, it creates a dangerous illusion. From the outside, it looks effortless, as if they didn't struggle, as if you didn't matter. But ease of leaving does not measure importance. It measures avoidance. People who leave without explanation often do so because explaining would mean acknowledging something real, something mutual, something they are not prepared to face. So when your mind returns to that thought, I was easy to leave, gently add the part it leaves out. I was easy to leave for someone who could not stay emotionally present. That sentence doesn't erase the pain, but it puts the weight back where it belongs. You were not dismissed because you lacked value. You were stepped away from because you carried depth into a space that could not hold it. And that truth matters more than the silence that followed. Ease of leaving measures avoidance, not importance. 6. What healing looks like. After you've been left quietly. Healing, after being left quietly, doesn't arrive as confidence. It shows up in smaller moments, in the pause before you send a message and decide not to. In the night you reach for the phone, then put it down. In the way you sit with a memory without trying to erase it. For many people, especially later in life, healing is not about becoming stronger. You've already been strong. Healing is about noticing where you stopped giving yourself permission. Permission to care without apologizing. Permission to be warm without guarding every word. Permission to stay open without chasing what retreats. It's the moment you realize you're not protecting your heart by becoming smaller. You're protecting it by staying honest with yourself. You don't close your heart. You give it boundaries. You don't stop caring. You stop carrying questions that were never answered. And slowly, something steadies inside you. You understand that someone leaving quietly does not mean the connection was imagined. It means it reached a place where truth was required, and only one of you could stay present there. Healing doesn't erase what happened. It returns you to yourself. 7. You were never easy to leave. You are willing to stay before this conversation ends. I want to leave you with one truth. Not as advice, but as something you can carry with you. If someone walked away from you quietly, without explanation, without looking back, that does not mean you were forgettable. It means you were present in a way they could not match. People who stay open, who show care without conditions, who remain emotionally available, often feel like they were easy to leave because they didn't make leaving dramatic. They didn't create chaos. They didn't demand answers. They didn't chase. They trusted. And trust, when it isn't met, can look like weakness. But it is not. You are not easy to leave. You were willing to stay in a space that required honesty, depth, and emotional presence. Not everyone is capable of that. So if that quiet thought returns tonight, maybe I was easy to leave. Answer it gently. Say, I was not left because I lacked value. I was left because I carried something real. And real things are not always easy to face. If this conversation found you in a quiet moment of your life, know this. You are not invisible here. You are not too much. You are not asking for more than you deserve. You are someone who is willing to stay. And that will never be something you need to apologize for.